Alright, Yelan, the gambling diva. With just a little snap, she'll put you in a wrap, forcing you to scrap. So don't fall into a nap because she'll throw you a slap and force you to clap for putting you in a strap. Man, she makes you want to flap. I said flap. Oh crap. Anyways, before we start the video, I just want to mention that only a small percentage of you guys are actually subscribed to this channel, so make sure to press that subscribe button because it's free and you can always change your mind. Finally, after weeks of waiting, we got Yelan. At this point, you guys might be wondering if she's worth it or not. And I know her abilities are similar to Xingqiu, but is that really a bad thing? I mean, guys, Xingqiu's an incredibly useful unit. Why is it bad if we have two of these? And unlike Xingqiu, Yelan's damage is based on HP, which I guarantee you that you have at least one hourglass saved up with pretty cracked substats. Since you'll put a lot of HP into her, that means she's gonna be thick, which is definitely handy against these Powerade looking ass bums. And also, I prefer to use this queen here instead of this soy boy version bookworm, but hey, no judgment. In any case, I think she's pretty fun, and I do think she's worth it. So let's go over her abilities. Hydro Pop Charge Shot. When Yelan's out of combat for 5 seconds, her charge shot has a 80% decreased charge time, and the charge shot becomes a Hydro AoE that deals damage based off of Yelan's max HP. Pretty nice so far. Also, after using your skill, there's a 34% chance for your Hydro Pop Shot to reset, and you can tell by looking at the highlight on Yelan's bracelet. Elemental Skill. BGM. An acronym for Beautiful Dame Shackles a Man. Definitely means nothing else, please don't search this up. Yelan goes into stealth mode, then swiftly straps her enemies with her Hydro Rope. Reactivating the ability will pull the shackled victims towards Yelan while dealing Hydro damage. She gains 4 particles from her skill. This is arguably one of my favorite abilities in the game. It's pretty fun to use, so here's a little tip with Yelan's skill. The enemies that you shackle will be pulled to your position no matter the order, so try to take advantage of that. Tip number 2, when you're using your skill, you use 0 stamina. So it's kind of like Sayu's roll. It's great for exploration and pretty useful when you're out of stamina in the abyss. Elemental Burst. Picks. Yelan smacks down a pose, releasing her BGM rope around her, which summons a small fairy that floats beside her that shoots 3 Hydro damage missiles whenever the active character is using their auto attack. Anyways, both of these abilities are very smexy to use, not only because they're both useful, but also because the damage of these abilities come directly from Yelan's own max HP exclusively. So attack is completely useless for Yelan. So technically, you probably don't even need to use Yelan with Bennett anyways. Nice! Alright, story time! That's right, it's back, baby! Yelan, as you all know, is a part of Liyue's Ministry of Civil Affairs. Interesting enough, most of the people who work there don't even know who she is. Her true identity is actually a special intelligence officer who reports directly to the Tianquan Ningguang. Wow! So many 5 stars working under her. Why is she a 4-star? But that title is more of an excuse, since her job is only associated with Ningguang, not the Tianquan itself. Her job is to gather intelligence of upcoming danger in Liyue, and in return, she is paid with dealing with that danger. Paid. Wow, what a job. Moving on to our passive talents. Passive 1. More variety of elements in your team, the more HP you get for Yelan, which means more damage for the Diva Queen. Passive 2. When Pix is present on the field, the active character's damage progressively goes up by 3.5% every second with the maximum of 50%. That's really good! Holy moly! So for your rotations, do try to save Yelan's burst right until you switch into your main DPS. Passive 3. More rewards in Liyue expeditions. Wow, I honestly forgot these exist. Moving on to Constellations. Yelan's Constellations are pretty nice, and I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. Constellation 1, extra skill charge. Constellation 2, 1 additional missile. Constellation Constellation 3, stronger missile damage. Constellation 4, increases party's HP by 10% for 25 seconds, which is pretty long, for each enemy's shackled with Yelan's BGM with a maximum of 40%. Finally, a HP buffer. Constellation 5, tighter shackles. Constellation 6, God mode. Remember that Hydra charge shot thing that she does with her charge attack? Well, with C6, Yelan's gonna casually shoot that with her auto attacks, and these attacks will be considered charge attack damage, which will of course deal big damage. Only downside is that it's only for her first 5 auto attacks, so it's not super crazy, but it's kind of crazy. Crazy enough to destroy this thing. Alright, story time 2. This is a word-for-word read, and this is kind of new to me, but this was pretty interesting, so I might as well share with you guys. Pharmacies in Liyue Harbor occasionally receive curious patients. On some days, it might be a Sumeru mercenary, on other days, a Fontaine adventurer, and there might even be some Mondstadt fisher who accidentally fell into water and bumped her head against a rock. These people are of different ages, statuses, and origins, but there's something equally peculiar to them. That is, they all share a slight addiction to pain. Uh-oh. They all like stinging sensation when pharmacists apply herbal remedies to their wounds. Uh-oh. And enjoy the dull pain caused by pressure on their bruises. Uh-oh. They even seem to care little if anesthetic is used or not when they are put through painful therapies. Uh-oh. Surprised by their extraordinary endurance, novice pharmacists are sufficiently distracted such that they fail to notice that all their patients are actually the same person. Uh-oh, they are, all of them, Yelan in disguise. Uh-oh, a master in this art, she always manages to avoid attention. Really. Moving on to artifacts. For beginners, the Gambler set, cause she's a gambler. No, don't leave! The Gambler set can reset your skill cooldown, so it's kind of useful for someone like Yelan, which can definitely help her with damage and energy, but this is a 4-star 4-piece set, so only use it if you have it. Most of the beginner artifacts aren't too special for Yelan, so I would honestly just grab Exiles or Scholar set, and maybe Berserkers, but keep in mind, Yelan's Ascension stat is crit rate. For endgame, I refuse to recommend anything but the 4-piece emblem set. This is the best set. It provides Yelan with energy, which allows her to spam her burst, and the 4-piece set increases her burst damage based on her own energy recharge. Now, normally I would recommend the 4-piece Noblesse, but unlike Xingqiu, she doesn't care for attacks, so this 4-piece set does nothing for Yelan. But I know that completing a 4-piece set can be just as challenging as MiHoYo fixing their resin system, so for those who's still farming, like me, even though you spent like 10,000 resin for a single ER Hourglass, you can use the 2-piece Emblem, the 2-piece Tenacity, the 2-piece Noblesse, and the 2-piece Heart of Death. These definitely help, and it's better than nothing.
Come on now. Drink your milk and go to sleep. What? You're not a kid? All right, well, I'll just leave it right here. It's yours if you want it. I usually fall asleep well after midnight. Full disclosure, if you're a sleep talker, I can't promise I won't take notes, okay?
What? I have so many questions. For artifact primary stats, your hourglass choice will depend on your weapon choice and probably just your stat as a whole. So HP or ER hourglass, ER is important because you want Yelan's burst to be up constantly, but if you have other characters in your team with energy recharge investment, I would just go for HP hourglass for Yelan. HP does do more damage, but consistency is just as important. So I would say the minimum energy recharge you need for Yelan is probably between 150%. But when you have Hydro Resonance or a Raiden, if you don't have high energy recharge without those two things, it's gonna be rough trying to have a consistent burst. So I would honestly recommend having like around 200% energy recharge or something remotely close to that. Anyways, continuing on from the artifact primary stats, the goblets and circlets will be your casual DPS choice of hydro damage bonus and crit stats. For substats, crit, HP, energy recharge in that order. Attack has no way of affecting Yelan's damage ability wise, so she's pretty darn easy to build. So now let's look at her weapon choices. For Yelan's weapon choice, just cross off every attack percentage primary stat bow from your list and just ignore the base attack, because attack means nothing for her. There's only two important things for a weapon for Yelan: the primary stats and the ability. So with that in mind, let's just go over these attack percentage bows. Starting with 5-star weapons, Aqua Simulacra, I don't know if I pronounced that right, hopefully I did. Best bow for Yelan, 88% crit damage, HP increase, and of course increases damage dealt. Definitely her best damage bow. Thundering Pulse. This bow's only useful quality is the crit damage and nothing else. It increases attack, which is useless, and increases Yelan's normal attack, which is kind of useless too. Just keep this on Yoimiya. Skyward Harp, you can technically use this, but the only benefit you get from this bow is the 20% crit rate and the 20% crit damage, which is easily obtainable from artifacts. And also her essential stat is crit rate. Elegy, ER primary stats, a great reaction bow for Yelan. Definitely recommend this bow if you're using electric charge teams. Moving on to 4-star bows. Alright, Moon's Moon. Ability wise, this bow's alright. Oh, sorry, that was the end of my sentence. You can gain a maximum of 40% burst damage increase, which is pretty useful. And with more refinement, this can actually go up to 80%, which is huge. But this is the only value of this weapon. And this is one of those limited 4-star weapons, I'm pretty sure, so they're kind of rare on its own, I guess. And if you're free to play, I highly doubt you have this to R5, so I would honestly just go for other bows, because the primary stat is attack, so technically, you don't even have to level this, hence why you probably shouldn't go for this bow. Stringless. It's actually pretty decent. It's very nice for reaction teams, and the ability buff is pretty handy as well. But if you need energy recharge, well, here are some options. Sacrificial. This bow is really fun to use. It has an 80% chance to reset the cooldown of your skill, and there's no ICD for the energy particles, so you can get 8 particles by using this bow. But there's also the risk of the ability not proccing, which is kind of risky, but it is a free Constellation 1, and I think it looks pretty great on Yelan. Favonius. Honestly, this is probably your best bow. It has high energy recharge, it's free to play, and it gives you so many particles just for critting. Then for the event weapon, something Twilight. I personally don't have this bow yet, so I can't tell you much, but in my opinion, this bow is pretty useful for some other characters as well, or even better. Like Sarah, for example. This is a great free to play bow with high base attack, and the ability is pretty handy for her as well. But I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use this weapon. This weapon is still pretty decent. Now, since we don't have to care about the base attack, we can technically use some 3-star weapons for Yelan as well. Notably the bow with HP percentage primary stats. This bow is called the Recurve Bow, and it's actually only obtainable through overworld chests, so this is like free to play weapon, and can be used pretty effectively, and the ability is actually pretty nice as well. Unfortunately, my dumbass pressed auto add while I was leveling Yelan's main weapon, so yeah, sucks. And my dumbass forgot that I had a free to play account with free to play stuff. My god. Moving on to teams. Personally, I like Freeze and Electric Charge, and I don't like Vaporize, but she was pretty fun with Yoimiya. Since Yelan's burst has more range than Xingqiu, this definitely helps with Yoimiya quite a bit. The only thing you have to worry about using Yelan in this team is probably the energy consistency, hence why I recommend the Favonius Warbow. I tried playing her with Hu Tao, and not gonna lie, it was kind of okay, until the flower disease kept interrupting too much. Yelan's hydro missiles couldn't keep up with this crazy, lovable demon, so if you want to use Hu Tao with Yelan, I recommend using Xingqiu with her, because it balances out the power application and the hydro application pretty evenly. And of course, you can bring a scroll unit to buff your damage and pull in your enemies, or you can just bring a Geo unit like Zhongli with a shield, or Yunjin to buff your normal attack. For Electric Charge teams, it seems like at this point everyone's go-to is Fischl and Beidou, and they do their jobs like no other, but if you have a Raiden, you can use her as well, because with Raiden, you don't have to worry about energy recharge, and you can also take advantage of the 4 different elemental buff to maximize Yelan's HP. But it's up to you whether you want to use this or not. Also, Raiden's burst auto attack works with Yelan's burst, so thank goodness. The only missing element to this team is a healer. So until Kuki comes out, you can honestly just put in whatever you'd like. I personally placed a Kokomi. Freeze teams. For once, a freeze team that doesn't actually want a Coco missile. Well, that's new. Anyways, yeah, Ganyu's abilities are pretty nice, but probably better if you use a team that can take advantage of all her abilities. My cryo recommendation is Rosaria and Diona. Now, Kaya can definitely work as well, but his burst is more close range, so I guess it's up to you whether you want to use this or not. We also have Ayaka. Her charge attack playstyle works with Yelan as well, since she technically does a normal attack before she uses her charge attack, so nice. You can just use a Venti or a Sucrose for a Swirler, and I personally wouldn't use Geo units for this team, Because, you know, shatter. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, consider leaving a like to this video. And if you want to see more from me, consider subscribing to this channel, because I need to make another Hydro Unit video after this one. So, yeah, anyways. Don't forget to check out my Twitch, where I stream 6 p.m. PST every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But other than that, hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.